You have been lied to by Cormac McCarthy because all of us love the origin story of the road. Cormac McCarthy, at 75 years old, takes his son to El Paso, and while his son is sleeping in bed, he looks outside and imagines El Paso in 150 years. And during this, he sees that it could end up being an apocalyptic world, and he fears for his son's future because he won't be there. And eventually, this idea sits in his brain, and a couple years later, he writes The Road in 6 weeks. And today, with some of the craziest literary theory you guys have ever experienced, because the Cormac McCarthy Society, the Cormac McCarthy subreddit, and all the other snoots that call themselves Cormac McCarthy content creators would never touch this idea. Because here on Right Conscious, we are not bound by logic, by academia, by needing approval from the mob of linear idiots with spacey eyes. So let me take you on a journey with a Right Conscious original theory on the real origins of Cormac McCarthy's The Road. And to get things going today, we need help from Mr. John Hodgman, who is an author, an actor, and a comedian. And this is what Hodgman had to say about The Road, which is what we could say is the classical position. And this is Hodgman talking about The Road. Quote, "He was traveling through Ireland with his son, who was 12 years old at the time, the age of the boy in the road. Then I did a little math and was like, wait a minute, Cormac McCarthy is like 75 years old, and he has a 12-year-old son. No wonder he wrote this book." And I'm like, Cormac McCarthy, you jerk. You were not talking about the apocalypse. You were talking about your personal apocalypse, because you are an old man now who's not going to get to see his own son grow up. That's what this book is about. And for you, it feels like the end of civilization and an intolerable world. And you can't say goodbye to a son that you can't guide through this awful world that allows you, an old person, to die. I'm like, how dare you, Cormac McCarthy, put me through all that when you're the one going through this personal apocalypse? And we would all agree that The Road is about an apocalypse, and there is a major debate if it was a nuclear apocalypse or the caldera volcano exploding. And there are arguments on both sides. For instance, the time stopping, which would indicate a nuclear fallout. And when we're examining The Road, we have to remember something, that The Road is McCarthy's last original work, because The Passenger and Stella Maris were started by him in 1960, and we know that there were drafts of it already in the early 1980s. But The Road was really his last original composition, other than maybe The Counselor. And I'm sure Cormac knew that this was probably the capstone of his career, so he wrote this endearing story about his son. But instead of focusing on that, you guys, we need to transport ourselves back to when Cormac McCarthy was 12 years old. And there's actually video footage online of Cormac McCarthy when he was 12. And McCarthy was born in 1933. And so 16 days after Cormac McCarthy turned 12 years old, the greatest apocalypse in the world happened. And yes, you guessed it, everybody, the nuclear bomb. The greatest apocalyptic event really in history happened when Cormac McCarthy was the ripe age of 12 years old. And when we look at Cormac McCarthy as a child, he was very sensitive. First of all, he was a Cancer, even though none of you guys believe in astrology, and was a loner. He liked to be alone and had all these different hobbies, reading, writing, his dog, all these different things. But he was also a high IQ individual. He was also, as we will see later in life, very smart. And so we have this nice balance of talent and emotion. And so as a 12-year-old who's smart and goes to a private Catholic school and has a father who is rich and very smart, you probably have the ability to comprehend, because he's not like a 12-year-old of today with TikTok who can't even read, what the nuclear bomb meant. But what also happens at the ripe age of 12 years old? Well, the scientific average age for boys to start puberty is 12 years old. And the core aspect of puberty for boys and for girls is the ability to reproduce, for women being able to have babies, and for boys, the ability to create sperm. And so this event in your life, in general, for everyone, is a time when you are very open to imprinting. That's why middle school teachers have it so rough. Middle school is easily the roughest grades you have to teach. As a teacher, I used to teach, oh my God, 8th grade geography. And I did a little bit of 7th grade English back in the day. And it was the most wild teaching experience ever. It was actually very nice looking back, because everyone was so open and so crazy with their emotions, but still very crazy. And so now I need to postulate kind of the second thesis of this presentation, which connects to the idea of why Cormac McCarthy started to write violent novels. Where did this impetus for him to write these weird stuff come from? Because a lot of people said, Oppenheimer included, that time stopped, that history ended the day the nuclear bomb was dropped. And in retrospect, how different the world was before and after World War II is insurmountable. Things started to rapidly change. In 15 years, by the 1960s, almost every single American household had a television in it. 25 years later, we have massive Vietnam protests and the Black Panthers and like all this, the American Indian movement, all this crazy political stuff happening with student revolutions in France. And we've now spiraled into this crazy modern age. And so Cormac McCarthy witnessed the greatest apocalyptic potential energy signature ever. And how does that change you once it's done? Because this is one of the main themes of Cormac McCarthy's The Passenger and Stella Maris. And I won't really spoil anything here, but both the characters, Alicia and Bobby Western, had their parents participating in the Manhattan Project. And from what I can tell, the novel has kind of this theme of the sins of the father idea, with which McCarthy was playing with a bunch in the early 1960s when he started. And the reason that Bobby and Alicia are having such a hard time in life and going through this craziness is because their father was involved in the Manhattan Project. And so one could say that McCarthy, who was in this at this in very open time, got sucked into this apocalyptic time warp and was almost red-pilled into becoming this violent postmodernist. Because when we start to read Cormac McCarthy's first work, for instance, I have a 10-hour Orchard Keeper course over on the Cormac McCarthy course. The link is down in the description below. It is $5 a month. And if you guys don't have any money right now, we also have free daily discussions over there that blow the Cormac McCarthy subreddit out of the water. For instance, today I wrote a pretty cool blog post on if Cormac McCarthy would get published in 2024. If he brought all his books to the table as a 30-year-old today, would he gain any traction or just get rejected? We have a cool group of people responding over there, so go and join us if you want. But in The Orchard Keeper, one of the first real scenes in the novel, in kind of the present moment, is when a couple of guys who have this kind of muscle car, and it's like the 1930s, so kind of a fast car, pick up two young girls who are underage, probably 14 or 15, walking along the road. And they get in the car, and the guy punches in and is trying to impress them. And one of the girls pisses her pants all over the seat. And then the guys pull off into a black church and take the girls into the outhouse and proceed to have sex with them after one of them wet her pants. And then when they are done, they're laughing and joking around and dropping the N-word, hard R, about what God would think about them doing that in the N-word's outhouses. What a crazy way to start your career, everybody. And then we moved on to Outer Dark and the craziness in there, and into the necrophilia in Child of God, and so on and so forth, with beautiful characters like Judge Holden and Anton Chigurh, and then eventually climaxing with the Rhodes cannibalism. And to take things a step further, the nuclear bomb is the greatest phallic symbol in history. Obviously, a bomb is shaped like a phallus. And if you look behind me right now, we have the mushroom cloud, the most destructive force on Earth, all representing what the greatest achievement of logic, of the male art of logic, of just testosterone unleashed on society. And so one could say that Cormac McCarthy's sexual awakening was connected to the bomb. Anyone around this age who was going through this was probably like a very typical male living in that time around Tennessee, because in Outer Dark, in Suttree, in The Orchard Keeper, there are scenes where characters are masturbating or having sex with a watermelon in Suttree. And there are these kind of odd scenes, and you kind of have to think, like, where's Cormac McCarthy getting this from? Well, if you're a boy living in kind of a household with 5 or 6 other siblings like McCarthy was, you'd go out on these walks and maybe start to do some sexual experimentation. And then when you come home and it's all tethered back, and what you're seeing on the news is about the bomb, and there's a war going on, and there's factories popping up everywhere. There was a factory up north in one of the towns in Knoxville that was actually helping create the nuclear bombs, then suddenly you feel more tied to it. And obviously, Cormac McCarthy has a huge interest in the nuclear bomb because in Stella Maris and The Passenger, he writes about it extensively. But even crazier, at the age of 20, he decides in 1952 or 3 to join the Air Force. And he actually becomes a navigator for warplanes and decides that he doesn't like that anymore and switches to being a late night radio DJ. But 7 years after the bomb was dropped, he was flying in planes that could fly nuclear bombs up in Alaska, which was AKA right next to Russia and probably one of the main places where nuclear bombs could maybe be launched from. And so this idea is on his mind during this time that he's now moving into a different phase of his life and starting to read and write a lot. And one of the main ideas that Cormac McCarthy loves to explore is that God abandoned us, that the He God in the Bible has abandoned us. And our way to get his attention back is to perform these violent acts. And I'll be kind of diving into some of those quotes and ideas which were explicated in Whales and Men in another video. But it's something he feels very strongly about. And so when we're looking at the stoppage of time in his life in adolescence, in the road, while sitting in the moment and looking at his son, the highest pinnacle of human destruction is when we transcended the He God himself, when we fulfilled, as my boy Alistair said on our live stream recently, the Promethean myth, and wielded fire, wielded the nuclear bomb, and could thus start to steal from God, start to make our own decisions and manifest our own reality. And so we have Cormac, who ties his negative anchoring with the nuclear bomb to the positive anchoring of his sexual awakening. And then when we move forward in time, McCarthy is existing as a postmodernist writer in the 60s. And with the stop of time and the culmination of this era with all these great men and ideas, guys like Oppenheimer and all the modernists and Faulkner, all of his heroes, all slowly fading away, it's time for Cormac McCarthy to step up. But what's the problem here? It's that we are not ascending into higher consciousness after the nuclear bomb because time has stopped. We are slowly devolving into base consciousness again. And Cormac McCarthy is tracking that. There were no school shooters really in 1950. There were no school shooters in 1965. And the postmodernists, a lot of them at least, like McCarthy, were the children of the bomb. Their relatives and fathers and whatnot were in World War II. And so there was this massive polarity, one of kind of the laws of the universe, the law of polarity and really rhythm is it's going to swing back the other way. And so now tying this all back to the road. The road was McCarthy's last inspiration. And when we think of old age, it's like that, I forget that riddle, but, well, it's actually the one in Oedipus. What goes on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? Talking about how, we start off as children and we're somewhat, well, that's not the point of it, but if, we're helpless as children, then as we move into old age, it's the return of the cycle. It's the sun is setting. And one of the main themes of the road is, of course, entropy, which is, one of the laws of thermodynamics and an idea that Cormac McCarthy injects into the road almost everywhere within it. And McCarthy takes us back to the primitive, but this was all inspired, and he takes us back to what? To childhood, to being a father, to being 12 years old in the wake of a nuclear apocalypse. And this may sound crazy, but as your kids are growing up, you start to think, what was I doing when I was 5 years old? What was I doing when I was 12 years old? And when we look at the title, it's The Road. And Cormac McCarthy has reached the end of the road, much like the character in the novel. He's reached the beach. And I guess, here we go, spoilers for The Road. He's reached the end of the road. And he ends up dying. And this final act in The Road, and I'm getting a lot of this from Alistair, everybody. He's been featured on the show before, will come again. So I'm thanking him because him and I played with this idea on the live stream. But he mentioned that in McCarthy's early novels, for instance, Child of God and Outer Dark, there's this idea of just kind of senseless violence, the killing of children and the killing of people and being a necrophiliac and all this weird stuff. There's no purpose, even the Glanton game. What's the purpose? But at the end, the last real thing that happens in The Road is that violence is engaged in for the last time. But it's for a just cause. It's for the sacrifice for his child, for this 12-year-old boy. And what's really crazy about all this, that ties it all together, is what does the man give to the boy? He's now dead, but he gives him the Promethean fire. He gives him his initial spark, the nuclear spark, for the boy to thus go be awakened into the world, to go be a man, because he gets the boy moves forward with a new group of people, and it's kind of thought to be that he's now got to take his life into his own hands. He's his own man now. And there could be a darker theory here that what if you get to the end of your life and you've not got what you want done? Cormac McCarthy died without a wife. He did maybe not figure out these things about the universe and come to fulfillment, and feels like this man who is dying, because The Road is his most violent novel. There's suicide and cannibalism and death and ash falling and blackness. And so if a novel is a reflection of the interior landscape of the novelist, then this one is his darkest and it's his last. And so what do you guys think? I think a lot of this is functioning in the unconscious, which is, I think, a little bit deeper than McCarthy postulates it is in the Kukule problem. But Cormac McCarthy's sexual nuclear awakening. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for all the support. If you guys want to support me for free, you can always follow me on Instagram. I have Cormac McCarthy content over there that's dropping nearly every day. We have free discussions on the Cormac McCarthy course. You can leave a comment, give a thumbs up, go watch some other videos, or just keep reading, keep talking to people. Don't become pessimistic. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe we could awaken more readers, that we could kind of bring a new publishing renaissance to fruition. And you don't have to get on camera. You don't really have to do anything except keep progressing, not just in the literary arts, but just in life, so that you can be a person of integrity and an esteem that people are going to look to and be like, man, John's really cool. Like, I should read too. Like, what's your favorite book? And then you're like, Blood Meridian, bro, dude, you got to read this one. Like, get through the first 60 pages. And then you wake them up, and suddenly we have a new person who's thinking in the world. But if you're falling into pessimism and like loneliness and these things, and you're not going to be someone who others are going to turn to. And literature should make us happy. It should elevate us. And my favorite memories, like, guys, some of the favorite memories in my life are hanging out with my buddies back before we responsibility in college. And talking about books. We'd read books together and just get into an altered state and just throw the craziest theories out there. And I think there's nothing more joyful in life than being able to just express ideas and not have to answer to anyone. And it's getting harder and harder to find those people in person. I don't have very many left in my personal life who live in the town I live in, who I can do that with. So that's why I'm here with you. So if you want to engage with me on that level, I'd love to engage with you on that level. And so thank you guys for being here. Peace.